the one source, Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
Welcome to episode 399 of Sports Card Nation as we approach the big 400th episode, which will be next week, obviously. We are giving away one big prize giveaway next week. Listen to the episode. I will give away or say a contest giveaway word, which then you relay to me, whether it be email, DM, or private message. You'll be entered, and one person will be selected via randomizer and win. The prize will entail a sealed wax box, autograph cards, game use cards, who knows what. The total should be at least 400, if not more, to celebrate our 400th episode, and I'm really excited. And we couldn't do those things without our great sponsors. So, in no particular order, SGC, Iron Sports Cards, Sports Collectors Digest, Hobby Hotline, Upper Deck, Card Ladder, and CTCA, the Certified Trading Card Association. And it's National Week, folks. And if everything is turned out all right, I am safely in Chicago enjoying the show today and this week. If you're listening to this on the show day itself, join me tonight, Friday, August 31st at 5 p.m. local time here in Chicago. I will be on the Mike Burkus main stage with Nick Jarman from CTCA, none other than CTCA. We're going to talk about what they do, what it entails, and future plans. I'm excited to be on the advisory board committee and really looking, anything that can benefit the hobby, right? I'm going to be all about that, and that's what they strive to do. All right, well, now that the house cleaning's done, let's talk about the guest for this week's show and next week's show on episode 400. And I didn't know this gentleman until talking to him. I had heard of him. I didn't know a lot about him and didn't know what to expect before, doing having the conversation with him for the podcast. And I went in, you always try to be open-minded, but I will say this, after we were done, I had a newfound perspective of him. I liked him. I think he's very sincere and genuine. It does help. He's from New York City like me. He's from Queens, where I'm from, Brooklyn. But I'm talking about Joe Hollywood, and has made quite a name for himself in the hobby and doing very well. We're going to talk. I'm going to talk all about that on this in next week's episode. So, with that being said, and I know the intro went a little bit longer because all those announcements, but let's get the show started. If you see me at the National, be sure to track me down, tap me on the shoulder, and love to meet you, shake your hand, talk a little hobby, talk a little life, whatever the case may be. So, with that being said, let's get the show rolling. All right, real happy to chat up the next guest on the Sports Card Nation guest line. We are both New York City kids, so we have that in common. Look forward to kind of diving into a little bit of that, but he's made quite a name for himself in the hobby itself. And first time on the program, happy to have him. Without further ado, welcome, Joe Hollywood.
John, it's great to be here. I'm excited to speak on the podcast and looking forward to talking about old times together.
Yeah. So I know we talked before I hit record and stuff. You're from Queens. I'm from Brooklyn. That's New York City and we're one big happy family. I have I always am proud of where I'm from. I know you're probably like that too. Like I said, I'm a little bit older, but around the same time frame. Just talk about, I've already spoke about it. People don't want to hear. They've heard my stories, but growing up in New York, during there's always a sports heyday in New York, but especially in that time period, right? that New York was a lightning rod for sports, and then that how that factored into your how you got into the hobby as well.
Yeah, so it was a lightning rod. It was always a lightning rod. Still is a lightning rod. I don't think that's ever going to change in New York, but man, oh man, it's hard to be a kid growing up in New York and not being a. I mean, we live it, we breathe it. You buy the newspaper, especially back in the '80s, and it just immersed you with everything that was going on, and with the renaissance of sports radio back in the '80s. I remember growing up and WFAN was just getting off the ground, if you remember that, and Mike and the Mad Dog and
Yep.
Pete Franklin, and yeah, it was pretty wild seeing how it all just kind of captured me as a kid, and that was right. It happened exactly as I fell in love with sports cards, right? So about 8 years old, 7 years old, this is all like becoming really exciting for me. And then 9, 10 years old is I just like I just 100% committed into loving sports and watching it as much as I could. Growing up, we couldn't afford cable. I don't know about you, but we didn't have cable, so I was dependent upon WPIX channel 11 for my Yankee, and of course that brought the scooter with it. So that made me really really happy. I love listening to his old stories, and I think that even made the charm and my romance for baseball even stronger, because when you used to hear all that kind of stuff, it just made your eyes open up, right? So it just a little bit of everything. It was really really cool, not only watching it and getting to learn it. And I didn't get a chance to have anyone teach it to me, so I kind of learned it on my own. And whether it was baseball, basketball, football, and it was wow, it was just unbelievable. Growing up as a kid in New York, I don't think it's a better sport.
No, and people ask me that too sometimes, Joe. And like I say, I would, even though I'm not there currently, I obviously still have family there. I wouldn't change a thing. It just like you said, it's something that's in your blood. I always joke with my wife, like if I was single, I'd probably still live in New York. It's only, it's tongue in cheek, but like, if it wasn't for you, I'd be back in New York. But I love going there and visiting, whether it's visiting family or going to a game or a sporting event. Or my son, who's from here, he's 26 now. He loves to go with me. So sometimes we'll take a weekend trip or whatnot. But I always feel like it's in your blood, and everyone I talk to that's from New York sort of agrees with that sentiment. So when we think about like where did the hobby start for you? Obviously, like you said, and I echo that, right? It's very hard to grow up in New York and not be a sports fan, right? I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's a huge sports town as most people. You don't have to be from New York to know that. So I was a sports kid. Sounds like you were a sports kid. How did the hobby, I found sort of cards by accident, Joe, real quick. Like 1979, I walked into a corner store with my grandpa. I was already a sports fan, but I didn't know they made cards. I saw Jaws cards, but I didn't know they made baseball cards until I saw them on the front counter. And then I knew what they were, but from seeing other cards or non-sports. And then when I saw they had baseball cards, it was 1979 Topps baseball. I asked my grandfather, could I get a few packs, and he let me get 3 packs. The first pack, like the fourth card in, was Reggie, and the rest is history. I was sort of hooked since then, and so here we are, 47 years later. For you, how did that, how did the hobby start?
Oh, I knew I liked you for a reason. Actually, pretty similar. I walked into, we used to call them corner stores, and it used to be like candy stores. That's what they used to were. I want to explain this to people because I'm not sure if everyone had the same experience. Like we didn't have general stores. We had these little candy stores you used to walk into,
Yep,
and they used to sell cards and like greeting cards and merchandise. And people used to go there pick up their newspapers, and that's
yep,
where you used to go pick up your cards. It was very rare that you would have to go to a hobby store to pick up your cards growing up, right? There'd be a couple of hobby stores, but most of the time it was just a corner store. That's where they used to be delivered. And my granddad and my grandfather bought me a pack in 1985. I was 8 years old, and I'll never forget it. And that's where it really just blossoms and it started. And then I remember going to the corner stores and wanting to buy more cards. And in 1987. I was fully hooked. Like, and especially with Bo Jackson being a Future Stars card on that top set, I fell in love with that card. I really did. Knowing that in 1986 they didn't make those cards, they didn't have the Future Stars cards in '86, and then they did it in '87. I was like, oh my god, I thought it was the greatest thing, and just totally fell in love with those cards in '87, and so on and so forth. It was just became just a oh my god, it became an addiction. Actually, I remember collecting those. I remember buying a pack of 86 Fleer basketball. I remember pulling out Isaiah Thomas's rookie. So, I mean, it wasn't a bad pack, but it wasn't Michael Jordan. So, I wish I would have bought more than one pack of the kid. They weren't that expensive. I remember I went to this place called Terry Sports Cards on Woodhaven Boulevard, and that's where we bought it. And I could only afford one pack, and that was the pack that I bought. So it brings back some of the best of memories of me, starting my collection off. And it sounds like we have, some pretty similar memories. And that's one of the reasons why we do this is so we can build that connection between dads and grandfathers or moms and grandmas with their kids, or maybe with their nephews or their nieces, and build that kind of connection with the hobby. Because I got to tell you, it's something really special. Something special about people building their PCs, finding cards in the rarest of places, and the stories that you hear. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's funny. A lot of the collectors that I talk to that are, and I don't think it's just a New York City thing, but a lot of them that I talk to that are from New York City, they have the similar, a parent, a grandparent, a brother, a cousin, or someone that sort of introduced them to the hobby, and then it goes from there. And again, it's not a New York City thing only, but I think even maybe a little bit more, just because of I don't know, the area, like you said, big sports city, and you're probably already a sports fan before you even were a card collector. That was sort of the graduation, if you will. I read, just so people know, I know the backstory with your name. You appeared in a Woody Allen film, and so you got the moniker Joe Hollywood, kind of tongue in cheek. Was that something as a young kid that did you want to do that? It just kind of happened. Was it something you were looking to do long term, and it just didn't fall that way, or how did that even happen for?
It was the craziest thing. I mean, I was in public school, and they casted a handful of us just literally in the school. We had no idea what was going on. We actually thought we got in trouble. I don't know why. I mean, I think I traded half of my sandwich that day, and I was like, "Oh my god, did I do something wrong?" I remember this, and then I remember going to the principal's office, and they were so nice. They're like, "Hey, you got chosen to possibly be part of a movie," and we were to go home and bring this paperwork home to our parents. And I remember bringing it to my mom, and she didn't understand it, and it became like a whole thing. And my mom didn't drive at the time, and we didn't have a car that worked, and so we were dependent upon someone to drive us to New York City in the middle of the night. And they started filming it. That's what nobody understands. Is like they used to start the filming of these things really, really early in the morning. So I remember getting in the car about 4:30 in the morning and driving to Manhattan, driving to New York City. And my God, it was just one thing after another where I just started to really, over the next few days, like going there, meeting Woody Allen as a kid. And I didn't really know much about him, but my family made sure I knew way too much of him. So they painstakingly made me watch like several of his movies. And when I got to tell you, at 9 years old, I didn't want to watch any of his movies. I wanted to watch sports. I wanted
Yeah,
to watch the Yankees, John. I wanted to watch the Yankees. I wanted
yeah.
to
And
watch the
listen,
Knicks.
I'm not, Woody Allen. We could go all sorts of directions. A great director, right? We no one too much that, but not for a 9-year-old kid. He's not. He's those kind of movies he's making are not were going to interest me at 9, and probably not you at
Oh
9
my
as well.
God, it was awful. It was tremendously awful. And look, very talented, incredible when it comes to movies. But listen, when you're 9 years old and your family is like, "Hey, you can't watch the Yankees today, even though they have a free game on WPIX. Instead, you're going to put on this movie from 1972, and you're going to watch it so you can learn about them." I didn't want to learn about them. I didn't understand. I was just like, just let me go there and do my thing. And I don't know. They must have chose me for a reason. I don't think anything I'm going to watch in this movie is really going to help me out. But they were determined that I would get to know him, and I could tell you, Nothing, none of these movies helped me for anything. It probably actually made it worse. It probably made it worse. All right, I'm telling you, because because it made me actually start to hate it, because
Yeah,
I mean, they
I
were
get it.
just so over the top, and you got to do this, and you got to, and when you talk to him, make sure you look him in the eyes and stare at his eyeballs, and I mean, I'm 100% Italian, and you can only imagine the Italian guilt that was coming out, and especially talking to my family and them all giving me advice, and I'm 9 years old, and they're all flooding me with this advice. Oh my God, it was just like it was way too much. So I don't think they realized that they did it, but it was fun. It was a great experience. I'm glad I had to do it. And then, it's unbelievable. 40 years later, and I just started a movie on Amazon Prime and Apple TV called Signed, Sealed, and Delivered with Kevin O'Leary and Gary V. And I'm in a majority of the movie, and it's about the hobby, and it was awesome. So talk about going from one experience to another.
Now the movie, The Sign, Seal, and Deliver, is that is it like accurate, or is it like there's a script, or is it just
No,
reality?
it was a 2 hour documentary.
Okay.
They came into my executive offices in my studio, and they filmed, and they showed you some of the behind the scenes over what goes on when it comes to the hobby, and and how the show works, and a little bit of the roots of how we started, but mainly asking opinions of where it's going. And I think it was very cool. It gave people some insight on what really goes into not only building a business, but how far the business has come from where we were. And I know that we had a chance to, off air, just, talk a little bit about, the business where it was to where it is now. And I mean, it is just absolutely night and day from
It's
those
not
smoke.
even. I always tell the people, Joe, like it's always been the hobby, but it's like a different hobby. The evolution of it. It's like you see the charts, right, where you see like the Neanderthal man, and then the evolution to like modern day man. That's kind of like where the hobby has kind of went. We grew up again around the same time. Again, I'm a little older, but when we think about breaking today, even, and I've said this on the show numerous times, right? If you would have told the younger version of me that someday you'll pay to buy into what's called a break, and someone will actually open the packs for you, and you won't be opening your own packs, I would have thought you're nuts. Like I even went with my friends, right? They're like, "Hey, I opened mine. Let me open one of yours too." And I'm like, "No, you open yours too quick. I'm opening my own. Don't touch it." You
Hmm.
know and you go from that sort of mindset to like and everyone knows explain it, but if you would have told the younger version of me then that would be a thing, I would have thought you're nuts. And it's a huge thing, as we both know. So it's
Well,
a different hobby.
they're the reason for it. And
But
it's the same thing that was, from when it started, is that it brings people together. And so the reason it's so prevalent and that people enjoy to do it is that they're not doing it by themselves, they're doing it with other people. And that is the reason where you make the sacrifices. Okay, I'm not opening this by myself. I'm opening this with a group of other people, and you get a chance to share the joy of getting that big hit or opening up something that is very unique. I mean, we just did that in my show on Friday night, early Saturday morning. We were opening up the Under Wraps products by Fanatics, and let me tell you, they make an incredible product. I'm not sure if you had a chance to open it. So we're opening up their brand new baseball jersey. And lo and behold, we open up a 1 out of 5 Shohei Otani. There was a special collaboration with Nike, and oh my God, we ended up finding out the jersey was worth $50,000, and the person paid less than $500 for the day, and it's just simply unbelievable. So when you get a chance to have those kind of moments, and then he's celebrating with 3,000 people in my room that are watching concurrently, it just brings like a different kind of excitement. And I think that's the difference. I think that there's a trade-off that, yeah, I like to open up my own packs too if I'm in that kind of mood. But I love going to a room and maybe gifting a card or a box of cards to people, because that's how I know that the hobby grows, and we need more people in this hobby, because the more people that we get in, the further that this is going to grow, and the more people that are going to enjoy it and pass it around to their kids and talk about how exciting it is. And without that, we've seen what that looks like, right? Nobody wants to talk about that.
Someone's at my door. I've got to get that. Be right back. For nearly 50 years, Sports Collectors Digest has been the voice of the hobby, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the sports collectible industry. From industry news, auction results, market analysis, and in-depth stories about collectors and their collections, Sports Collectors Digest has everything you need to know about the hobby. SCD is also your leading source for listings of sports collectible dealers, card shops, card shows, and the latest from the industry's top companies. To check out all the latest news or to subscribe to the hobby's oldest magazine, visit sportscollectorsdigest.com or call 1-800-829-5561.
Sports Card Nation has returned.
Before COVID, and you go back 10, 12, 20 years, hobby, I don't want to say it was dead, but it definitely wasn't like it is now. I mean, it was kind of a lonely world. And now take a look at the evolution of it, where people are treating these cards as works of art, which they should, for the so many one-of-ones and so many unique items that are out there. And with the hobby growing as much as it is, it's still the fraction of where I think. I like to see the evolution of it, and I'm an old school guy too. So I'm not a great tech person. So it's not that I'm a Generation X guy. So I was born in the '70s. So it's still, I'm still getting used to the tech. But man, oh man, it seems really exciting.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off something you said there, Joe, I also born in '72. I'm not shy about, what am I going to do, right? Like my dad says, there's only one way to stop getting old, and he's not a fan of it right now. So, but I too obviously was around before cell phones and the internet, and I'm sort of glad. Like I like all that stuff now. Don't get me wrong, but I'm sort of glad I knew a time before it where a kid in today or a younger person today doesn't remember it not having it, right? It was always there from their existence. So I sort of appreciate it, I think, more because I know, what times were like when we didn't have it. And I also appreciate those times, right? How do we know where our friends were, right? All the bikes in front of the stoop or there was no cell phone to say like, hey, where are you at? Via text or call. So it was just the old school way of like looking for a bike or just communicate, hey, we're going to so and so's house after school. We're going to do this or whatnot. I read in your bio, it didn't go into specifics, but it says like you were hustling on the streets with your cards in New York. Kind of talk a little bit about those times and what you were doing then.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I was actually buying. So what would happen is I went to school in New York City. I went to college, and I would leave my classes and go on 23rd Street. And you'll probably figure out what college I went to because it was right off of Lex and 23rd. And I would go on to 23rd Street, and people used to sell cards on the corner. And I remember going there and paying a nickel a card and just spending hours upon hours just literally thumbing through monster boxes of cards that, I mean, I still have a lot of them today that I never got a chance to sell or I didn't want to sell, and it just brings back really fond memories. It's just of just like taking a look at some of these cards and saying, wow, you know what, I spent hours looking at 1980 Rod Carews, right? That I have that I have in my collection. I was buying at a nickel or a dime a piece, and I just knew for some reason that was something that I should be collecting. That I thought would gain some value, and whether it was the old Tom Seaver cards or the Nolan Ryan cards that I was collecting, or my favorite player was Ricky Henderson, and I loved Ricky Henderson. My biggest regret is I never had a chance to meet Ricky in person because I grew up loving baseball because of it. And there's a lot of people you could love, but there was just something about Ricky Henderson. I love the fact that he would steal bases. I love that he was a little bit of a cocky leadoff hitter. In my opinion, the best leadoff hitter of all time, obviously, and just the things that he did, the snatch catch. I mean, it was just everything that he did, and that really, I really love that. And the bittersweet part about this is never had a chance to meet him in person. The worst part about it, on my show, and I never opened up the product before, the night that the rumors were circulating that he passed away was the same night that I actually had a box of 1980 Tops BBC certified. And I said, "Hey guys, we're going to try to hit this Ricky Henderson rookie tonight." He was I hate using the word idol, but he was really the person that I really loved growing up. And they said that he passed away, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, that guy can't die. It's Ricky Henderson. And so that's my biggest regret, and that I never had a chance to meet him as far as sports are concerned. But my God, I mean, that guy just made it so passionate. I know a lot of people in New York were passionate about Don Mattingly, and he was great. He was the hitman, right? And people were passionate about Dwight Gooden and Darryl Strawberry. I mean, those guys were men amongst boys, right? But Ricky Anderson to me was
Yeah, and like you said, the greatest leadoff hitter. A guy could steal a base and hit a home run. Those don't always go together that often, and just fun to watch, right? Just an exciting guy to watch because whenever he got on base, regardless of how it was, a walk, hit by pitch, a single, whatever it was, like no base was safe. Like you rarely see guys steal third anymore. That was like no big deal to him, and I don't know what his percentages, his third base stolen percentages are, but I venture without even knowing, it's probably a safe guess. He probably is the leader in that. And the third base, if anyone, I played baseball, so it's not that I was a base stealer. I was more of a long ball guy, but that's a hard base to steal, no matter how fast you are, no matter how slow you are, just because it's just an easier throw and a little bit shorter. And but he would do it like it was no big deal. And again, that stuff manufacturers run. So if you're a fan of that team, he gets on base. Things are going to get pretty interesting. But again, he hit for average. He hit for 300 numerous times. Just all around, defensively. He obviously with his speed, he could track it down. So there was really no. I know people bag on him with some of the quotes and stuff, but he was not a dumb guy either. Like you're not that good of a great of a player without being a smart guy. So I wasn't necessarily a Ricky guy per se, but I won't argue that he wasn't fun to watch and interesting anytime he was going to say something, right? And very, like you said, confident, right? But he. There's a difference between cocky and confident, right? Confident people back it up, right? Anyone can be cocky, but the proof was in the pudding with him. And again, I was shocked too when the news came across my phone, and I had to read it twice, Joe. Like, is this true? Like, and I had seen him not in person. Like, he did an eBay event at the National. I think it was like 4 months or whatever it was. And he looked great. I stood there and watched him, and he looked great. And so when I read that he had passed away, I was kind of caught me off guard. Like, what happened? I've seen him 4 or 5 months ago. He looked fine, but you just never know. And obviously, a sad day. I think he was 69, but that's young, in today's day and age. And it was a sad day for baseball in general and in life, reading that he was gone.
I agree. I mean, but you know what? The best part is that you remember those memories. You remember whoever it might be, maybe it's him, maybe it's somebody else, and then you say to yourself, you know what? Now it's time for me to find a new favorite player. And so that's what
Yep.
I did now. So now I got Jalen Brunson, and Jalen Brunson's my guy. And let me tell you, I picked a real good guy to like because man, after 53 years, we have a championship here in New York. And my guy, I am so excited. I was elated about it. My son was excited. My son was just as excited as me, and he's 14 years old. And oh my God, and he was like breaking down in excitement. It was just a very special moment of wow. I mean, look at where we were to where we are now and all the moves that we made. And that was a tough team. Like, look, I know we beat them in 5 games, but Wembenyama, that guy is going to look, that guy's going to win multiple. I mean, he's going to go down as probably one of the best of all time when that guy is doing what he's already shown that he can do in a couple of years. I mean, I'm only afraid to see what that guy's going to do 3, 5 years. It's probably going to be astronomical. But yeah, it feels good for one of the first times ever. It feels real good to be a Knicks fan right now. I'm sure that you must have celebrated. I'm assuming you're a Knicks fan as well.
So I'm going to be very honest. I like the Knicks. I'm probably not as big a fan of you. Basketball ranks sort of fourth on my major sport. Like it goes football, baseball, 1A, then hockey. Believe it or not, I'm in the New York Rangers. I picked my teams this year are not faring well. Mets, Rangers, Steelers made the. I'm a Steeler fan. I'm not a Jets or a Giants fan. That's a long story that I've told on the podcast. I just I grew up in that Steel Curtain era, and Mean Joe Green became my ultimate kind of guy in football. So that's the only like non-New York City team that sort of bucks the trend. So Mets, Steelers, Rangers, and I was just a casual basketball fan. But being a New York City kid, I knew what that title would mean to City and Knicks fans, and so I was glad. I was sort of leaning to them just being a City kid. It was sort of a no lose for me because if San Antonio won, Wemby. But well said by you, right? That's a guy that's going to. But he's still super young, and he's in the finals this year. Like you said, he's going to have a ring or two at the very least, and arguably be, bar an injury, probably arguably one of the best players to put on the sneakers and play basket. So their time will come. But a lot of people, you can't win a title with Jalen Brunson, all that, sports radio stuff, and I think the Knicks and Brunson proved that theory to be incorrect.
And that's what I loved. I love that he proved. I love the
Yeah,
fact that he was a smaller guy. Say I know they list him as 6'2" or 6'3". He ain't 6'3", he's about 6 foot. I love the fact that a small guard was able to lead it to a championship and really debunk all of the naysayers, especially everyone that said, "Oh, they needed a 1A player." They had a 1A player. His name was Jalen Brunson. It's not my fault that the Dallas Mavericks didn't offer him a great contract when they could have, and they could have extended him. It's not my fault that we didn't give up hardly, and we didn't give up any assets for him. So for me, it was really exciting to have him on the team. I mean, just probably the best footwork in the league. Love the worth ethic. I always go back and I see those training videos with him and his dad, and it's just I love the connection they still have together on the bench, and you can see it, and you can see the love that they have for each other. It's something unbelievable. I think that if I know it's a distant fourth for you, and hey, listen, I love the New York Rangers. I am a New York Giants guy. I mean, New York Giants have my love. My favorite Giants player of all time is Mark Bavaro. He will always be my favorite Giants player of all time. Now, I might not have been able to meet Ricky, but my next person that I need to meet is Mark Bavaro. But my God, that guy, his nickname on the team was Rambo. And I got to say, I mean, the guy played with a broken jaw against the New Orleans Saints and then went ahead and caught 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, you want to talk about a tough guy. I mean, that was, and I love that. I love somebody that was able to, just work hard and work hard to get results in him. And so, yeah, growing up, and as you can tell, I'm not sure if you're noticing this, they're all around that same time period of when I started to love sports. That's when these guys were in their heyday, and now I'm able to, to bring that forward. And I love listening to my son and him telling me what he enjoys. And then the best part is debating about it, especially with my audience, right? Because I have a very passionate audience and a very generous audience, right? So when they start to get passionate and about something, it sometimes it brings.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, depending on what era you grow up, right, you sort of gravitate to the stars of that era. And if in your case, were you liking all New York? For me, I just wasn't a Jets and Giants guy. The Coke commercial with Mean Joe, the kid that was in that commercial with Mean Joe, if you saw a picture of me, we looked similar at the time. Actually, we are the same age when that commercial came out. So I just didn't like the Giants. Listen, I took a lot of abuse from my New York City friends are like, how can you be a Steeler fan? You can't even go to the games. And I'm like, well, I can't go to the games now. I'm a kid, but someday I hope to. But stuck with it. I jumped on sort of the heyday, the Steel Curtain. They were winning. But I didn't leave ship in the 80s when they were one of the worst teams in football either as well. So, but yeah, and Bavaro, even though I wasn't necessarily a Giants fan, I was a sports guy. So, you read all that stuff and head scratching. Like now guys get a bone and they're out 4 to 6 weeks, right? And just a different area. You hear the stories about, Ronnie Lott amputating part of his finger to finish a game out. It's just like crazy stuff. Jack Youngblood playing on a broken leg as a linebacker. Like that's just insane stuff that you honestly you'll never see again like that, and probably shouldn't. truth be told. But that was the heyday of toughness, and frankly, it was before the concussion protocols and before we knew CT and a lot of other stuff like that. So it was just sort of that was the time period.
Time for our Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week.
What's up, Sports Card Nation? This is Brett McGrath with the Stacking Slabs podcast. Remember, the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.
Hey, John, you want to have a catch?